This has to be one of the biggest lies that you've been fed about cybersecurity training. You've never even once stopped to question. And believing in this lie is causing you to stay stuck where you are month after month, year after year, hoping and praying to get into cybersecurity if only one day the job market improves. Hi, my name is Ryan from Elevate Cyber, and I'm a cybersecurity professional with over a decade of experience from multiple Fortune 500 companies, US government, and freelancing. And I too was once held back by this myth. So when it comes to cybersecurity training, we're always told, and I mean, if you go anywhere online, you'll hear this, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on YouTube, a lot of other creators like to just say this like it's matter of fact, and like there's no questioning it or even considering that this might not be the case. And that is the idea that big companies are good and small companies are bad. Meaning that if you buy a security training from a big provider like, let's say, CompTIA, Hack the Box, TryHackMe, Offensive Security, these are the altruistic and benevolent companies. They have your best interest at mind. And even though they're companies, they're not trying to sell. In this case, for some reason, they're not trying to make money. They want to help you, right? And if it's from an individual or a small business, automatically, yeah, that's a scam, no doubt. Like everyone knows that's a scam. Can't be anything else, right? And look, are there scammers out there? Absolutely. You know, one thing that comes to mind is if you guys follow the nuisance streamers out there, there's this guy, Wes Watson, he's like a former convict, though I think that's about to change. He's about to go back in jail again because he like beat the tar out of someone in the gym over like using the equipment or something crazy like that. But anyhow, this guy would sell like business coaching or something like that, and people would buy consults from him, consultations, and he would literally no-show his consultations and not refund them, like refuse to refund them. So basically they were paying for a product that was never delivered. They're paying for a service that they never got. And so something like that, absolutely, that is the textbook definition of a scam. You're paying for something and it was never delivered. But how often is that really happening nowadays? Very rarely. I mean, I would posit very rarely. That's one of the few times I've even heard of that happening out there, because typically these people don't tend to stay in business for very long because word travels faster than ever before nowadays, right? I mean, we have the internet for that. But a lot of times what people are calling scamming, we really need to define, like, what does that mean for one thing, right? Because a lot of what people are calling scammers out there, if we look around, we could find someone that took that exact same program and got the desired outcome, you know, whatever the outcome is. We could find a number of people in many cases that have gotten that desired outcome and would speak positively on the program. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Like, what do we even really constitute as a scam? Now, if maybe we're saying, okay, well, if the percentage of people, if we want to try to define that, and we say, okay, well, if the percentage of people achieving the desired outcome is below this certain number, then we can call it a scam. Okay, well, can we even, okay, by that definition, then Hack the Box is probably a scam, or, you know, Offensive Security or something like that, or some of these companies, right? Because what is the completion percentage? What is the percentage? And not everyone has the same goals with this too, right? Like some people want to do Hack the Box just for fun. I've met people that just want to get OSCP with no intention of like making a career change into cybersecurity. But if we could somehow quantify that and say, okay, out of the people that are using these platforms or these other providers in hopes of getting a job eventually in cybersecurity, what percentage of them are successful? It's going to be a very low percentage, right? And the way that a lot of these large companies trick you is with the law of big numbers. Because do you guys know the statistic on what percentage of people complete courses online? Do you know off the top of your head, or do you have like a ballpark estimation on what that is? Let me tell you, it's around 30%. Meaning that only 30% of the people that buy the training even show up, even do the training, even complete the training. So if you just show up, you'd be surprised. Like if you just show up, you're already ahead of most people. Like the bar is really that low. And here's the thing, a lot of people that will make negative comments about products and services online, either A, never even bought the product or service, or B, they bought it, but then were a part of that 70% that never even completed it. Maybe they did part of it and got lazy, gave up, whatever the case may be, didn't complete the training. And of course, as a result, they did not get the desired outcome. And then they went and complained about it online. And now you're reading that as a negative review or whatever. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. One thing that I wanted to show you that I think is a perfect illustration of this is just like the default perception of what people have with someone like me that creates content, and you know, my peers as well that create content online, compared to someone that doesn't. And so you could kind of see like what the bias is here. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm a victim. I just want to kind of challenge maybe something that you hear a lot of people, your own peers say, and maybe you bought into it and you didn't even realize the case, but it's really ridiculous when you look at it like this. So let me share the screen. It's pretty interesting, I think you'll find. So I'm going to go ahead and play a short that's one of my more controversial ones, and then we can take a look at the comments on it afterwards. So yeah, let's jump into that.
Here is the reality
reality of salaries in cybersecurity. I think a lot of people come in with misconceptions. They see all these crazy numbers and they expect that when they land their entry-level job in cyber that they're going to be making 150K or something crazy like that. I think a much more reasonable expectation is anywhere from 80,000 to 100,000. For me personally, when I landed my first job in the field, I started at 80,000. But the thing is, you can get that salary up very quickly. So a year later, I was able to go from 80K to 100K. And then a year and a half after that, from 100K to 166K, and now I'm well beyond that. The thing is though, in order for you to be able to pull that off, you have to keep learning, you have to keep elevating yourself in cybersecurity in order to get those higher salaries. Okay, and real quick before we dive into the comments on that, if there's any doubt with this, I'm gonna put the video that I made on breaking down my actual salary in the cards right now. So in the top right of your screen, you can go and watch the video where I talk about my salary and I break it down by job. I show you tangible proof from my W-2 forms, my acceptance letters and everything like that. So you can verify that this was the amount of money that I was making in my career as I progressed through. Don't take my word for it. Go and watch that for yourself if you'd like, and then come back to this video. But if you wanna stick around here, let's jump into the comments now, and we can see like, okay, this is what I said, and you can see that verified. Now, this is how people perceived it as the fact that I create content or whatever online. There was so much doubt. They're like, bro, 80K job. I can't even get an internship for the life of me. This is cap. Guy said started at 70 a year and a half. Later, I'm at 100, right? Let's see what the comment on that was. 70K in a year? You know, there was less like calling him out. This one here is this cap. And then this one cap. And then you go down to this one, right? I started at 95K, and now after 4 years, I make 200K, right? Let's see, there's 19 replies on this. Let's see what they had to say. Oh, damn. Oh, good for you, man. That's crazy. What was your degree in? Can you guide me? I have limited resource for study and blah, 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 blah. Oh, blue team or red team. Oh, that's enough motivation for me. Wow, per month, yearly? Yo, man, I'm new. Like, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there you go. Like everyone took him at face value because he doesn't make content, right? So you can kind of see the bias, right? Which later I made the video to prove like this was the amount that I was making. But just like off the cuff, right? If I say something as a creator, as like a small creator, everyone assumes it's a scam. Everyone assumes it's a lie. If like a big company makes a statement, people will take that at face value. If someone that's not a creator says something, everyone believes that person too. Now you can make the argument that, okay, well, this person is in a more unbiased position because they don't sell any kind of training or anything like that. Okay, fair. Fair, we can make that claim. But how does that explain the inherent trust of like the large companies? Because people don't question the claims that they make, even though that they're still selling a product, right? People forget that like these companies also exist to make money as well. And like I was saying, there's the law of big numbers, right? So you're seeing, because they have so many more people that are in their program buying their courses and stuff, just by the nature of that alone, if we take that 30% completion rate thing, you know, because obviously if you don't even do the training, the chance that you get the outcome is going to be very low, right? We can all agree on that. And so 30% of 1 million people is a lot more than 30% of like 200 people, right? So for testimonials or like people that you could go online, if you look up blogs or you look up content creators that have passed these certifications, just to use certs as an example, you're going to see a lot of people, right? And you're going to see like a lot of content from people that were successful and got the cert, right? Because there's so many of those, because there's so many people all together that went through the training. So it's going to look from an outsider perspective like the big company's solution is the better solution, when if we really break down the percentages and the numbers, actually their percentage of success is probably a lot lower than many of the smaller solutions that you could go with. And look, I get it. You might be watching to this point and be like, oh, well, of course he's saying this. He sells a program. And to be honest, yes, I do sell a program, but this is what I'm actively doing myself. When I go to learn something, and especially if it's something that I really want to excel at and go all in with, I am going to prioritize the solutions from individuals and small businesses over the large ones. Because think about this, right? If someone's visiting your hometown or whatever, and let's say they want to find like a good hamburger. Let's say your town is known for like cuisine or something like that, for American food or something, and they want to try a hamburger at your hometown. Are you going to recommend them McDonald's, or are you going to recommend them the local mom and pop shop? You could recommend them McDonald's. That's the bigger solution, right? That's from the big company. Or you could take them to the small mom and pop shop that probably has much better quality. So my point is that, in my experience at least, what is for the masses almost always tends to be lower quality. Because as you get bigger, it doesn't matter whether you're you're a cybersecurity creator or cybersecurity training company, or if you're a burger company, right? As you scale, you have to use more automation. You have to remove some of the personalization, some of the human element and stuff as well. And so almost inevitably, you have a different experience when you buy from these individuals and smaller creators compared to these large monolithic organizations. And just to better illustrate this, I wanted to share with you a comment from a recent client that had started to go through some of my courses. And he made a point that I think perfectly captures what I'm saying here. So I'm not going to read off all of the text here. I know it's pretty long. So just pause the video, give it a read for yourself. If you're listening to this on audio, just, take a look at the screen, pause the video, and unpause it, and we'll get right back to it. So that's one of the driving factors behind why I typically seek out the individual. So just to give you a concrete example of this, is recently I started getting into learning sales because, like a lot of people out there on the internet, they're like, oh, all of these creators, they're just marketers. They're just marketers and salesmen. They don't really know how to do the thing they're teaching. Like for me, it's the complete opposite. Like I'm a cybersecurity professional first and foremost. I didn't know anything about sales. And I'm like, okay, this is actually a huge issue for me as a business owner, because if I want to be able to impact as many people as possible, I have to help them overcome the barriers that are in their way so that they can reap the rewards and they can reap the benefits of getting in the program and learning cybersecurity in 6 to 8 months, just like the other hundreds of students that I have that have gotten that. And if I can't figure that out as a business owner, I'm doing them a disservice. So I need to learn this skill set. And when I went to do that, I had a multitude of options. There's of course a lot of companies out there that are very large providers that I could have went with. And I would have still probably gotten the success from that, because the thing is, when I approach any course, if it's something that's very important to me, I'm going to go all in with it. And I'm going to make sure that I'm a top performer in that. But of course it helps when you can find a program that's super tailored to you and you get that personalized, individualized attention. And the reality, like I was saying with the scaling, right? If you take something like offensive security, just as an example, right? How many people are enrolled in OSCP? That is a massive, massive training provider. So even if they wanted to provide super personalized, attention, they're kind of limited in their capacity to do that. Like how many employees do they have at their company that are involved in the training and building out their training and stuff? I don't know the number, but I can just tell you off the cuff that it's nowhere near as many students as they have, right? So even if they wanted to provide very individualized attention where they're working with people one-on-one and they're meeting with them regularly, like not in like a big massive group call with like hundreds of people, but just one-on-one or very small, like 5-6 people, they couldn't do that because they're just too large. They have to have the automation in place. They have to have the systems in place because business is systems. And so what that's going to mean is you're going to get a less personalized attention, and you're going to be going through a more cookie cutter, a more generic version, because they have to be able to accommodate a wide audience, right? And as a smaller business owner, what I'm able to do and what other smaller business owners are able to do in any niche, in any domain, is they're able to get very personalized and intimate with the training and coaching they're providing for their students. So that's why when I went to learn sales, I actually bought from a content creator, someone that has went through a lot of these bigger programs, but had a very niched down offer. Something that, when I was going through, I'm like, wow, this is like the perfect solution for me and for what I'm looking to learn. So it allowed me to get much more individualized attention because his community was much smaller than if I joined this large training provider, but it also had a offer that was a lot more tailored to what I was looking for specifically. Because he's a smaller creator, he can be more niche down. He doesn't have to cast such a wide net, and that's the advantage to going with these smaller creators. Because I remember back to when I was first getting started, this was like the advice that I needed to hear, and that's the kind of content that I try to make, is like kind of telling myself when I was first starting out the information that I now know that I wish I knew then. So like when I was first starting out, I remember one time when I was mulling over the decision, should I buy this course for $500? It was like $497. And to me, that was like such a big decision back then. And for a lot of you watching, maybe that would be a big decision for you as well. Eventually, I decided to pull the trigger and buy it. That was the most expensive training I'd ever bought at that point. And it was massively, massively impactful for me in a positive way. Like it was the ultimate decision that I really needed to make. And I came very close to not pulling the trigger on that. And that really shifted my perspective. It was able to get me to my goals so much faster. I wouldn't probably be here today. I probably wouldn't even have had the strength to make all this content for so long, doing this for 5 years. I wouldn't have probably be here in the camera in front of you if it weren't for that course that I bought all those years ago. This was back in 2019, 6 years ago. And I mean, even to this day, like last week, I bought a course for $7,000. I bought a training, dropped 7K on a training without even blinking an eye. And I mean, every month I'm paying my mentor $1,500 just for 1 hour call every month. So 1 hour of his time every 30 days for $1,500. And why would I do this? Well, I'm doing this. And by the way, that guy is also just a small creator. He's a YouTuber. And the reason that I did that was that I know it can get me to my goal so much faster than trying to figure all this stuff out on my own, right? Because you could take that path, right? You could be like, you know what? I don't care how many certs it takes. I'm just gonna watch all the YouTube videos. I'm gonna take all the Udemy courses. I'm gonna buy all these $20 courses and I'm gonna figure this out, right? And to be fair, you totally could do that. And there's people that have done that and have been successful to get into the field. But how much is your time worth to you, right? Because money we can always get back. You land the job, get a good paying job, you can replenish that money, right? You saw the salary thing earlier. You know what to expect in terms of cyber salaries. But the time, it doesn't matter how good your job is in cybersecurity, you're never getting that time back. So that's what I'll say. That's what I wish I really had considered a little bit more closely when I was first starting out. But if you guys want some help with getting into cybersecurity, really accelerating the timeline, if you're tired of just, waiting around month after month, year after year, pursuing this, pursuing that, and not really reaching your goals as fast as you'd like, go down to the description below, fill out a brief survey, and I'll see how I can help you.